So yes. Dan, I'll take your nameplate around so everybody knows you got yours. Big dog.
Wow.
I don't have it.
Yeah, oh, no, I know the bridge. Yeah, that was nice. I know. That's like the hard. I didn't see that. Yeah.
Good morning.
Oh, morning.
I'd like to welcome everybody to the Board of Directors meeting for the Chautauqua County Industrial Development Agency. We're at the BWB Building, 201 West 3rd Street, Jamestown, New York. Also streaming live via YouTube and Zoom. It's August the 27th at 10:30. We'll go ahead and roll call. Gary Henry is here. Brad Walters.
Here.
Dan Hetzenrader.
Here.
Sagan Sheffield Smith.
Here.
Tom Harmon.
Here.
Dan DeMart.
Here.
Kevin Muldowney.
Here.
Amy Harding.
Here.
Thank you. You should have already received the July 23rd minutes and had a chance to review those. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes?
So move.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
A second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes have been approved. Before we get into new business, I'd like to welcome PJ Wendell here with us, the county executive. Thank you for being here this morning. Did you want to share anything with us?
I just real quick though, we just talked briefly. I know Hideaway Bay was very busy over the weekend. Some of my colleagues posted. I'm really excited about the opportunity, what that's done for the North area. A lot of other good little projects coming on, so really excited. Keep up the good work. It's interesting, and Mark has been there, Rich and others. When you listen to the governor's statements, when we look at what's happening, Chautauqua County is doing something right down there. Chautauqua County is doing it the right way. So when you have, the governor touting what we've done as an industrial development agency, I think that says a lot. So really excited because I love every time she says that we're doing more things, and just can't say enough. So keep up the good work. Glad to be part of it.
Thank you.
Thanks, PJ.
We'd also like to mention that we received their resignation for Steve Thorpe. And so certainly he's been a valuable board member. I don't know, Mark, if you wanted to share anything.
Yeah, we got an email from him on July 24th. I think that was the day after our last board meeting, saying that he was resigning because he's retiring. And so he's got things that he wants to do, travel, etc. But just to give you a brief background on that, he joined the board in 2018. And he's a business representative. He was a business representative of the Sheet Metal Workers Local Number 112, which serves Chautauqua, Cattaraugus, and Allegheny County. So, and he was the president of the Southwestern New York Building and Construction Trades Council, which helps to promote union construction and apprenticeship opportunities. So, we will be replacing him at some point here in the near future with another union representative. And we've had conversations about that. And we just want to really thank Steve he was always here. He always participated, and we were grateful that he served. So,
thanks. Thank you. We'll go ahead and move into new business A, presented by Christine and Millen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I see that we do have Lee Kirsten here with us on Zoom. Lee is with 401 Central LLC. And Lee, I'll go ahead and review the project, and then we'll turn it over to you if there are any questions after I make my presentation. Does that sound okay with you?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So today we're presenting an authorizing resolution for 401 Central LLC, which was previously presented in detail at our July 23rd meeting. To recap, 401 Central LLC was formed by Gary Cruson of Peak Development Partners, and Gary is the managing member. Working together with Lee Cruson, who's with us today, an access agent, and Craig Marlott, who is the pre-construction manager. The project plans include acquisition and redevelopment of the former bank building located at 401-403 Central Avenue and a parking lot on Lark Street in the city of Dunkirk. The applicant will convert the 10,855 square foot structure into two and 25 market rate apartments and approximately 1,800 to 2,800 square feet of commercial space. As mentioned previously, this building is prominently located in Dunkirk's downtown district and just a few blocks from its waterfront attractions. The application is for real property tax, sales tax, and mortgage recording tax abatements to support the purchase and renovation of this property known as the former Lakeshore National Bank building that was built in 1938. It later was used by Marine Midland, HSBC, and then First Niagara Bank, which closed operations at the location in 2016 after First Niagara was purchased by KeyBank. It's been vacant since, while the building continues to deteriorate and suffers from water damage. The total cost of the project is estimated at $2.4 million. The financial assistance provided by the CCIDA would include up to $86,400 in sales tax exemptions, up to $22,500 property tax exemptions, and $596,016 in net property tax exemptions over 15 years, with $243,864 in new total pilot revenue paid to the affected taxing jurisdictions. This project will also receive $900,000 in state funding from the recent Downtown Revitalization Grant awarded to the city, plus an additional $150,000 grant from the state's Western New York Regional Economic Development Council. 24 construction jobs are projected during the renovation, and once complete, up to 7 permanent full-time jobs will be created. Work is expected to begin immediately with a tentative completion date of September 2025. The pilot schedule requested is the adaptive reuse schedule in our uniform tax exemption policy. Per the policy, adaptive reuse projects are qualified projects that involve adapting old sites or structures for new purposes, including potentially a mix of business and commercial uses or market rate housing. Adaptive reuse projects are those that will benefit Chautauqua County by redeveloping a blighted site or structure, promoting development using existing infrastructure, and creating new activity at a troubled site or structure to assist in eliminating neighborhood blight. As part of CCIDA's due diligence process, a public hearing was held in the city of Dunkirk at the Center for Innovation and Economic Development on August 21st. And all of the board members should have received the transcript in your pre-meeting packet. There was one attendee from the public who attended and made comments. You may remember Vince DeJoy, the Director of Planning and Development for the City of Dunkirk, speaking in favor of the project at our meeting here last month. Vince could not be here today due to a meeting with state representatives for another project. However, during the public meeting, he provided a statement in favor of the project and CCIDA's support on behalf of the city and Mayor Wadowiaz that reads in part, "This project will be the first downtown revitalization initiative project to have been started during this award process. Mixed-use project is going to be transformational for Central Avenue, and I believe this is Vince speaking. That is just the beginning. So providing this type of assistance is in line with the IDA and the city's vision and goals for revitalizing downtown Dunkirk," end quote. I think we reported last month that Dunkirk had initiated the initial outreach to CCIDA requesting that our agency support this project, pilot and tax lease incentives. Potential environmental impacts have also been reviewed, and in a few minutes, we will ask Millen to review the secret details in connection with the resolution being presented. But before I turn it over to Millen, I'd like to ask if there are any questions of the board members for Lee Kersen of 401 Central LLC. Okay, thank you. Millen, would you please review the authorizing resolution?
Happy to. As Christine mentioned, this is adaptive reuse, so there's no deviation from your UTEP. It's a 15-year pilot. The schedule and the calculation of it are in your board package materials. I will point out, as Christine mentioned, this is a type 2 under SECRA because it's an adaptive reuse of an existing building, and the size of the building does not trigger the requirements for a type 1 finding. So the secret findings are in section 1 of the proposed resolution. And as you can see, it's because it's adaptive reuse, we recommend that the board find that it's a type 2 and no further environmental review need to be done. The only other comment that I would make is that even though this is a mixed use project involving retail, the retail is less than 1/3 of the total cost. So it does not fall within the general retail prohibition for IDAs. Other than that, this is the final authorizing resolution. So if it passes, we would move on to the documents. And as Christine mentioned, the exact amounts of the financial assistance are set forth in section 5 of the resolution. That's it.
Thank you. Did we have any other questions from the board?
I just have one other comment, Mr. Chairman. You know, the history of that bank building was that it was in the foreclosure process. And I just want to sort of give credit where credit is due, that the county, the legislature approved the transfer of that property to the Dunkirk Local Development Corporation, who then marketed it heavily through Hannah Realty. And they roped in Peak, and Peak has been really wonderful to work with. Want to thank you guys, really responsive. So, you know, Nate and I toured that building a couple of years ago, and I had Nate go first, walking down into the basement. And you couldn't see that it was full of water. And so Nate stepped right into it. Like, oh, I push you first. But anyway, yeah, so it's really, I mean, it really fits the definition of a dilapidated property with really beautiful bones. So I'm excited that this is gonna happen.
Good. No hazard pay. Brad, would you move new business A1 for us?
Resolution 08272401, authorizing resolution 401 Central Avenue.
And do we have a second? Thank you. We'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. Gary Henry votes aye. Brad Walters.
Aye.
Dan Hetzenrader.
Aye.
Megan Sheffield Smith. Tom Harmon.
Aye.
Dan Demart. Kevin Muldowney.
Aye.
Amy Harding.
Aye.
The resolution is unanimously approved. This is an exciting project. You know, excellent presentation on everything that went into this one, but this is kind of hitting a lot of different things, you know, the DRI and the revitalization of Dunkirk, getting us back on the tax roll. But it's also housing development. We know there's a need for housing in our county. So it's not just one thing, it's all these things coming together, and it's just good for the county, for the city, and for everybody involved. So it's an exciting project.
Thanks, Lee.
Thank you very much, everybody. I really appreciate all of your time and attention to this project. And I'll let everybody know, if you don't know already, that we did actually close on the building last week. So we formally acquired it, and we've already put a brand new roof on the building. So it is now watertight, and the deterioration of the building is at least for the time being at bay. And we do intend to start full-blown construction in the coming weeks. So thank you very, very much.
Excellent, excellent.
Excellent. Thanks, Lee.
Have a great day.
Yeah.
Next, we'll move into new business B, Lucy's Energy Reserve LLC, presented by Mark and Millen.
Yeah, so I'm gonna start out, and I'm not gonna say too much, because we have Donnie Sheehan, who is the Director of Development for Greystone, or Granite Source, I'm sorry, LLC, who is sort of the parent company of this project. And Donnie's gonna say a few things, but I did want to say that talk a little bit about where the property is located and why we want to sell the property to them. This property is on Dow Street, just south of Allen, and it's just north of the Casella Waste Recycling Plant. And the actual parcels are sort of oddly shaped, and there's drastic slopes, and it's really not good for a building or our traditional, what we would do typically in a business park. So the fact that they approached us and wanted to purchase it, and I understand the reason why, is It's near a substation, the National Grid substation. And, you know, for them, the slope is not, the slopes are not an issue. You know, Donnie's gonna talk a little bit about permitting and how long it takes, and Millen's gonna talk about sort of the time frame that we're allowing on this, which is really not traditional, but they're looking at 100 megawatt battery storage facility. They're looking at, they offered us more than, we had an appraisal done, an appraisal was done on one of the parcels. And what they're offering us is higher than that appraisal came back, and Millen will talk about the economic potential, but I think it's a really good project for this parcel. There's a big need for battery storage. And the last thing I wanted to say was that we actually had lunch with Janet Bowman, the supervisor for the town of Ellicott, and she was excited about the project and on board with us selling this to them. And so with that, I'll pass it over to Donnie. Donnie,
Thank you so much.
want to say a few things?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Mark. Is it okay if I stand up? It's a bit bigger of a room than I had anticipated. Thank you for your time. I'll try to keep it brief here. Donnie Sheehan, Director of Development, Expanded Source Power. Thank you. I develop battery energy storage systems. There's a big need and demand for that in New York via the CLCPA to reduce energy emissions by 70% 2023 and 100% by 2024. Batteries are a big part of that in that they pair nicely with renewable energy. As more solar comes online, batteries will be buying energy off of the grid and be holding, whether it's wind energy or solar energy that might otherwise not get used, and then puts it back on the grid when the demand and the load occurs. That's the general concept of the batteries pairing well with renewable energy. We did identify these 12 acres here as industrial land owned by the county here. So I reached out to Mark and said, is this a smart match? Mark said, go talk to Janet Bowman. I talked with Janet Bowman. Then the following week, you also met with Janet. And so it seems that the town of Ellicott says, let's see what we can do with this. I met with National Grid. National Grid they say that this is a good spot as well. We paid for a report and they went ahead and told us how to go ahead and plug in. So like Mark said, right now we're prospecting maybe 100 megawatts. It's a good sized project. Could be more. We're still evaluating the grid. And that evaluation of the grid will take 2 years. The state takes 2 years to study from the end of next month to they're going to run a cluster study, and only then we'll know what our costs will be to plug in. And then we start to procure equipment. And the lead times on a lot of the main power transformers are another 2 years. So I stand before you today, but we might not put a shovel in the ground for another 4 or 5 years. It's just the nature of this type of development. That being said, the CapEx on this baseline is about 100 million. So we'll probably be coming back here for applying for financial assistance with you come maybe 2 years from now, hopefully. I'm doing everything that I can to move this along. But that's really going to be the short of it. Happy to talk through any questions in general about myself, about my company, or about really what it is that we're bringing here.
Let Millen talk and then.
Ronnie, I just have a question, just for my own curiosity. If you had to guess at a percentage of what would be the source of the energy going into these batteries, would it be, nuclear, wind, solar, coal, gas, oil? I mean, if one was online today, what would you expect to see that percentage, you think?
So obviously there's the hydro that's going to be, just to the north here. Batteries don't make a distinction where the energy comes from off of the grid. The grid acts like an exchange market. So if you were to buy a stock of Disney, you don't know who you're buying it from. If you sell it, you don't know who you're selling it to. The grid behaves the same way. There's energy on the grid. The concept with the goals set by the state is to flood the grid with solar and wind energy, renewable energy, so that the energy the batteries are buying is renewable. So it's only going to increase in terms of how much renewable energy is going to be put onto these batteries. So today, I would have a hard time giving you an estimate, but by 2030, if goals are met, 70% of the energy would be renewable. And then by 2040, 100%. So they pair nicely. Additionally, the batteries do alleviate a lot of stress on the grid.
Right.
So as there's higher demand, if more businesses come online, more people are living, there's higher load, higher demand for it. With batteries, it's putting, rather than the upgrades to those lines on the ratepayers, it's putting it on private development. So this battery helps to alleviate the stress of that grid.
So for example, SKF needs power, they get it out of the batteries rather than transporting it from the nearest power generation here is where for us? Syracuse or the hydro, right?
With Dunkirk offline,
Yeah, be the hydro.
right.
Right. All right.
So yeah, that's probably right.
Thank you.
Of course, thank you.
Millen, would you like to share your part and then we can open up for questions?
Sure. There are two separate resolutions before you today. The first is the seeker resolution, and I do want to talk about that. Because of the long lead time and the complexity of getting all the approvals for one of these projects, we are recommending that the IDA segment, meaning take the seeker process into two chunks. One is the actual sale, which is what we're doing today, and then when the project goes forward, there will be a separate seeker review, both by the state and by the IDA when it comes back to you for financial assistance. So in the seeker resolution, that's our recommendation. And the important finding there is that segmenting this into two parts is no less protective of the environment, because both the state and the IDA are going to take a fresh look at the actual project when it comes along. Right now, the only thing we're doing is a transfer of the property, which will not affect the environment unless and until the project goes forward, at which time a new seeker review will be done. So that's the seeker resolution. We don't usually recommend segmenting because the seeker statute, et cetera, disfavors that. But in this case, we sort of have to. Otherwise, we can't do a full seeker review because it's not ready yet. And yet the company wants to lock down this particular parcel because it is in fact unique and because of its location. The second resolution is to approve the actual sale. And the actual form of contract is attached to your resolution. It's actually been signed by the buyer. The purchase price is $75,000. Mark mentioned we have an appraisal for the larger parcel, and the smaller parcel is sort of behind it and is mostly landlocked. So we think that this is a fair price for the parcel. And in any event, according to your property disposition policy, one of the exceptions for having to go out for competitive bids is when it's an economic development project. When it's an economic development project, your policy says, well, we don't necessarily need to sell it to the highest bidder. We need to sell it to someone who's going to have good economic development potential for it. And clearly that is here. So while Mark and Rich we are all confident that this is a fair price, we did not go out for competitive bids for exactly this reason. The IDA wants to sell it to these folks. Mark mentioned that there's sort of a unique facet to this purchase contract, and it's paragraph 19 at the very, very end of the contract, wherein we're selling it to these folks with the understanding that they're going to develop the property. And there are timeframes. We've given them 30 months to apply to the IDA, some fudge factor beyond the 2 years that's estimated. And they have 6 years to start construction and 7 years to finish construction. If they don't meet those milestones, then the IDA could, if it decided to, purchase the property back, right? Because if these guys aren't going to develop the battery system, well, then maybe there's somebody else who wants to do something with it. Well, as Mark indicated, it's probably not good for most of your typical economic development activities. And I think,
And this buyback is less than what we're selling it for.
yes, I didn't want to emphasize that, but the answer is yes. The buyback is less than what we're selling it for. So even if it doesn't get developed, then two things happen. A, you can buy it back for less than you're selling it for to sort of cover your transaction costs, et cetera. And in the interim, it goes back onto the tax rolls because the IDA owns it today. It's off the tax rolls. So even if nothing happens for the next few years, it's on the tax rolls, which it is not now. So it's a sort of a win-win all the way around. And yet the company gets title to the land, so they have the confidence to go ahead and do all the applications, et cetera, that they need to do to develop the property. So those are the two resolutions. There's a secret resolution about segmenting, and then there's the approval resolution for us to sell it to this developer.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? You mentioned, it might be 100 MW. For somebody like myself, what's 100 megawatts? Like, how many homes would that cover? Or how, give me a scale.
So I would say that 100 megawatts from, let's say, a pure generator, which I'm referring to solar, wind, gas. That could power maybe 1,000 homes. Let me get back to you. I don't want to give you an incorrect number. Batteries do behave a bit differently.
Okay.
In that they more store the power and put it back when there's the demand. Let me get back to you on that. I apologize.
That's fine. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm just trying to, understand the scale and, it's hard sometimes to know but this is significant. This is going to be a lot of power.
The investment is significant. It's a low impact. Once it's there, it's controlled remotely. And there's no traffic coming in and out. We put a fence around it, or sound wall. We do noise studies to make sure that we're not impacting negatively anything. So yeah, it's a nice low impact development that brings a lot of investment to the community.
Gary, I can point out that most of our solar projects are 5 megawatts and under.
Right.
So this would handle 20 or maybe more of the solar projects, right? We tend to do them one and then maybe another. So this battery storage alone could handle, 20 or more of those projects.
Thank you. Dan Hetzenrader, would you move new business B1 for us?
Yeah, sounds like a good opportunity, but glad to hear the town is in favor, as well as some clauses to make sure the property is available for future development if it doesn't move forward. So I'll move resolution 08-27-24-02, secret resolution, Lucy's Energy Reserve LLC, and resolution 08-27-24-03, approving resolution, Lucy's Energy Reserve LLC.
Thank you. And do we have a second? We'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. Gary Henry votes aye. Brad Walters.
Aye.
Dan Hetzenrader.
Aye.
Megan Sheffield Smith.
Aye.
Tom Harmon.
Aye.
Dan Demart.
Aye.
Kevin Muldowney.
Aye.
Amy Harding.
Aye.
And the resolutions are unanimously approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'll be keeping you up to date on the project's progress every step of the way. Really, I appreciate the opportunity. Looking forward to doing business in your county. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Next, we'll move into the executive director's report.
Yeah, so a couple of things. First of all, I wanted to announce that the IDA will be hiring Shelby Bilski to be the how did I put it? Successor CFO. So what I mean by that is that she'll be starting in September 23rd. And she'll be working next to Rich until Rich retires in June. So when he retires, she will be the official CFO, but for the time being, she'll be the successor CFO. She lives in Sugar Grove, Pennsylvania, and she's got a very impressive not only resume but personality, very dynamic. We utilized R.A. Kerner and Company to do our search and to really set up all the interviews. We interviewed, 8 or 10 people, I want to say. We narrowed it down to 2 people, had another set of interviews, and It was very competitive, but at the end of the day, we all agreed that she was the right match for us. She went to Slippery Rock University, where my daughter went. And when you see the type of courses that she took, linear algebra, micro and macroeconomics, mathematical statistics, way smarter than Rich, right? Clearly, no, I'm kidding. I mean, she.
Don't disagree.
And, with her professional skills, she currently works and her bosses knew that she was looking. And we use them she used them as a reference. So Erie Management Group in Pennsylvania and Warren, no, Erie. Yeah, because she's been commuting from where she lives all the way up to Erie. So she's been Senior Director of Financial Planning and Analysis and a corporate officer, treasurer since July of 2018. She worked at Blue Stem Brands. She was a senior financial analyst, worked at PNC Bank, and the list goes on. So I think you'll agree that she's young, she's dynamic, she really can't wait to dig in and be a part of our team. So more to come. She'll be at the next meeting. We'll do a press release once she starts, and we'll let the community know how excited we are about her. So that's number one. Some updates. Mason Industrial Park, we've been working with Clark Patterson Lee and subconsultants to make that shovel ready. They are undertaking soil borings, wetland delineation, they're surveying. We hope to have that work all done by the end of this year. But they've been working away at it and we're excited. And we're also, Jason, we're going to be setting up a time when we meet with the BPU to do some joint marketing of the site through site selectors and others. So we'll start, we're going to start that process up now. And we'll use that same template when Ripley gets a little closer to being shovel ready. I wanted you to know that. We're looking at other sites in the county. And in fact, tomorrow we have some very high level state representatives meeting with us to tour a particular site. We're really excited about it. And because it's not one and done, right? So we always need to be thinking 5 years ahead or 10 years ahead. And that's what we're doing as we're finishing up Ripley. We're looking, we're still looking at other places. Speaking of Ripley, we are making great progress there. As I've let the board know, there was still a funding gap of $5 to $6 million. And we've been working toward securing some other grant funding to fill that gap. Really neat. Aldrich's been taking the lead on that with assistance from the planning department. McAllister and Quinn has helped us, consultant. And so we just in the last 2 weeks submitted 3 big grants. One was $1 million ARC IIJA, which stands for Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act through the Appalachian Regional Commission. For $1 million, we submitted that grant last week. We submitted a $2 million ask for the Appalachian Regional Commission Power Program. And then we submitted a $3.3 million through the EDA just the last couple of days. So if we score on all those, we'll be good. We'll have everything we need. If we fall short, we'll just keep working at it. But we're feeling really good about all 3 of these grants. So keep our fingers crossed that we get those. The other thing is we've been working with National Grid on extending the 34.5 kV to the site. And that's, they did a feasibility study. They came up with 2 options. we sort of chose the one that was the path of least resistance, if you will. And now we're working with the town to get the easements with the property owners, and that's kind of a long process, but we're keeping our fingers crossed on that as well. So that's Ripley. And then, we've been also working with Ellicott Development on the new Sunset View at Point Chautauqua development. That's a market rate, large housing development project that hopefully, keep our fingers crossed that happens. It's looking really good. They're having a public meeting tomorrow night, 7:00 at the Chautauqua Municipal Building, the old school up on the hill across from GOB. So representatives from Ellicott will be there, Tom Melenda, and others. So I plan on going to that as well. So that's really, that's gonna be a project that's probably north of $60 million. So that's a good one. And we've been working with them for a couple of years now, making that project, hopefully make that project a reality. Yeah, and then I think that's about it. Did I miss anything? No? Okay, well, that's sort of my update. Anybody have any questions? All right.
Sounds like you've been busy.
Yep.
Good. Next, we'll move into the treasurer's report from Rich.
Okay, got a few more of these to do. So before you, we have the balance sheet as of 7/31/24. I would like to note that very healthy in our cash positions. As you notice, the All-Tech and EDA's funds, we've got a lot of money out on the street. We've got some more commitments there that we planned for. Loan money is tight right now, which is a good problem to have. Maybe we can ask the EDA for another 10 million here. We'll see what happens. So. No surprises on the balance sheet other than, again, we're in good position on the cash. Turning to the statement of revenue and expenditures. IDA's about break even. The EDA CARES Act showing a little bit of a loss. We're putting a lot of the bad debt expense there this year, just that because that's the newest fund and that's where the auditors would look at that. So that's where that is. But everybody else is, we're having a pretty good year here. And then turning again to the statement of revenue and expense, the variance report. Ahead on the education and administrative fees, since we redid the budget last month, I'm going to surpass even what we had budgeted there. So there's most of these are all just timing issues. All the other variances. So I think we're going to end up with another very good year. The professional fees there, most of that is a timing issue. So I'll entertain any questions, Gary, if anybody has any. Great.
Any questions from the board? Hearing none, do we have a motion to accept the treasurer's report? Megan, do we have a second? Thank you, Tom. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The treasurer's report has been accepted. At this point, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing the financial or credit history of a particular person or corporation. In particular, I would like to discuss the status of our loan portfolio and the financial and credit status of some of our borrowers. But here's such a motion.
I can make that motion.
Thank you, Tom. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Amy. All those in favor say aye. We are back in open session. I would like to report that there were no actions or votes taken during the executive session and therefore no minutes of the meeting were taken.
Well said.
Well written. Do we have any old business to come before the board? Hearing none, do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The meeting will be adjourned. The next meeting will be September the 24th at 10:30. And please note that that's at the Fredonia Incubator. So if you show up here, you'll have to get in on Zoom, but then I don't think you're allowed to vote.
Why are you looking at me when you say that?
Well, you have all the rules. It got very complicated.
I did that once. I, Dunkirk, and it was here. I thought, what the heck?
So,
201 West Third Street in either Dunkirk or Fredonia.
Yeah.
But it's a little run down. It doesn't look right.
And today's Taco Tuesday, right, Jeanette? All right, tacos for everybody.